Hey, and welcome to Brand OTC, where we answer your branding questions with a full over the counter product. All right, so today's episode, we are focusing on the product called Brandamin, and it's a vitamin for your brand. So it is essential for business survival and strength. So if you're struggling with confusion, inconsistency, and burnout, this is the episode for you. All right. Now, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Cynthia Akita, and I am your brand strategist and educator here at the Design Firmacy. And today we're going to focus on 5 things new business owners should know about branding. All right, now there are a bunch of things you should know, but let's be honest, it's too much and I don't want to overwhelm you, sorry. And so we're just going to go through 5 things that I think a lot of people don't focus on because they don't think it's important. So typically when you are, starting your business, you're just excited, you're happy, you're like, man, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I have this thing that I'm going to sell. People are just going to flock to me and buy everything. And, you're just so excited and happy and you're ready to go. But sometimes that excitement and the speed of things can often be a breeding ground for neglecting some of the most important things in your brand's foundation. And in any type of foundation, it allows you to build a proper structure on top. So if your found excuse me, if your foundation is made of straw, that thing is falling down. Whatever you build on top of it is not going to be stable. It'll just take the wind to blow or some water and it all comes crashing down. If you build your brand foundation with stone, you have a better chance of having something that's sturdy, that can hold up whatever it is that you build so beautifully on top of it. So let's get to the first thing. The first thing is that your brand is more than just the logo. It is essentially your reputation. Now, when it comes to starting that business, we run for that logo. We always want to do the visual things because, again, we can see it. It's appealing to the eye and it makes you feel like, okay, I'm actually building a business, right? But the thing is, those visual components, while they are important, they're not the most important thing. It's not the first thing that you should focus on. So, really understand that your brand isn't just about how you look, but it's about what people think about you, what they feel when you're in the room, uh, figuratively, right? Feel. But then it's also about what they say about you. So a lot of things, or some of the things that you really want to focus on, I know it seems like the boring work or the tedious job, but building that foundation is so important that it shouldn't matter how tedious it may seem, although I disagree, right? But again, it's my field of expertise, so I don't think it's boring. But focus on your values, your purpose, and the message, because that essentially forms, that foundation that you'll end up making your decisions from. You really need clarity when you're building your business. You can't just get up and say, okay, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, but then you haven't really put deep thought into it. Because without that clarity, everything is just going to fall apart. It's not going to be sustainable. And you're going to end up back at square one. And no one wants to do that. But, it happens, right? So you really need to define what your brand stands for, why it exists. And if you don't, your audience is just going to decide that for you. And I don't know if you've ever felt like, you're just following the crowd or you're just being pulled around, but that's what will happen to your brand where you're just constantly chasing what everyone else wants you to do instead of putting your foot down and saying, this is actually what this brand stands for. This is what we do. This is how we go about it. And this is how we can serve you. If you feel like we are for you, then continue to patronize us. But if we are not for you, then that's totally fine. We want to get closer to the audience that is for us. All right. So focus on your purpose, your values, and your messaging. Now, number two, you have to know who you're talking to, who you're selling to, who you're interacting with as you're building this business. Now, I know a lot of times we don't want to leave anybody out, and I've done a video on this trying to target everybody. You simply cannot target everybody. Whatever you're building, it's very special, but it's not meant for every single person that is on this planet. Um, To be honest, if we could all agree on something, this world would be in a much better place. So you just have to acknowledge that your story is not going to be the same as the next person's story. And it may not relate to the story that you're telling within your brand. And so you cannot reach everyone. You cannot speak the same message to everyone because everyone is not going to receive it the same way. In the same manner that somebody could say, um, the sky is blue. Another person will say, yeah, the sky is blue. But then someone else will say, okay, the sky is blue and, the ocean is also blue. Or like they may find offense because that's not their perspective of that opinion you may have, right? And that probably wasn't like the greatest example. But at the end of the day, a particular message can only resonate with the people that it's actually meant for, people who can actually relate to what you're saying or the experience you're sharing, right? Someone who has lived in the city all their life cannot relate or will not understand someone who is sharing their story about living in the country and maybe not having certain experiences that someone from the city would have, right? Because they have completely different backgrounds, completely different experiences. So the way that you market to someone in the city is going to be different from the way you market to someone who's lived in the countryside for all of their lives, right? So you just cannot appeal to everyone because if you appeal to everyone, you're essentially reaching nobody. So branding works best when you are specific. You got to know who your ideal audience is because, again, it helps to shape the way that you speak to them. It helps to shape even the way that you design your graphics and the other visual parts that most entrepreneurs love so much, right? But in addition to that, it also helps you to shape your offers, the things that you're selling, and even the pricing, all the way down to your pricing. You cannot expect to charge a certain type of pricing to um a family who makes 30,000 a year versus someone who makes 300,000 a year. It's not going to be the same thing. So essentially your positioning is what makes you visible to the people who actually need you the most. So if your brand again talks to everyone, it's going to resonate with absolutely no one because it is just too broad and it's not personalized. I'm pretty sure that if you went to a spa, you would want them to cater to you or to serve you based on what your specific needs are, right? Not based on the person that's next to you because that wouldn't really be helpful to you. So you want to think about that when you are, deciding who you want to talk to, who your audience is, and how you want to reach them. All right. So number three, consistency. Consistency is everything when you're building a business or just not just building a business. Consistency is necessary in every single part of your life. Because consistency, especially in business, helps you to build trust. It helps you to build recognition. So your brand should show up the same way across all of your platforms. And it's not just in your visuals, because I know, again, we run to the visuals, but you should be consistent in your voice. You should be consistent in your tone, and you should be consistent in the experience that you are providing people. So let's say you met somebody, maybe it's your best friend, and when they're at work, they speak a different way. They're very proper, and that's, again, we know that that's the type of environment, that's kind of expected, the voice, right? We put on for that type of an environment. But then you see that same person and let's say they're not your best friend, just a professional. You see them at work, they're very professional, they speak eloquently, they enunciate all of their words, and then the moment they're at a restaurant speaking with someone else, they're actually like yelling at them and don't have patience and they're raising their voice and just disrespectful. You would say, man, like, who is this person? Because the person I saw in the office was completely different from the person I'm sitting down to eat with, right? And so you really want to concentrate on your voice and the tone with which your brand speaks and the experience that you also provide people. You always want to make sure that all of those things are consistent in addition to your visual, because inconsistency will always create confusion, sorry, and it will damage your credibility. As I said with the example, that person, that professional was great at work. They exuded professionalism at work in their workspace. But then the moment they stepped out of that space, they were a completely disrespectful and disingenuous person, or disingenuine person. And you're sitting there literally confused. Like, who are you? Are you that person that I saw in the office? Or are you really this person that I'm seeing at lunch? And you don't want people to feel that way about your brand. If they feel confused about your brand, they're not going to patronize you. They're not going to find value in you because they're going to think that you're inauthentic. All right. In addition to that, you want to think of every single post, email, or product as an opportunity for you to really reinforce your identity. And that is who your brand is, who you are. And so you don't want to just do things for the sake of doing them. You want to put some real thought and intention behind all of those things. Because the truth is that consistent brands are always remembered, inconsistent ones are always questioned, and you don't want to fall into that questioning bracket where people don't know if you are truly who you say you are or not. Now, number four is the fact that your offers should align with your identity. And I mentioned that a little bit earlier on. So, your products and your services are extensions of your entire brand. They're not just things that you sell. And I know sometimes, for some of us who may be building personal brands at times, we are multi passionate. I'm multi passionate, right? But sometimes we want to sell books, with shoes, with catering, with crocheted items, with knickknacks or trinkets. And it's confusing. It's just confusing because they seem to be misaligned. Now, while in some cases, maybe it'll work with a particular brand, obviously with a brand like Amazon, right? You could sell all types of stuff, but generically or generally, you want to make sure that the things that you sell represent your brand as a whole and doesn't turn it into some type of like a flea market. All right. Because what you offer and the way that you deliver it, along with the experience, helps to create, or it helps, or sorry, not helps, but it essentially becomes a reflection of your brand's values and speaks, or should speak, directly to what your audience needs. So if it's not doing that and it's just a matter of, well, I have these things in my house, I need to get rid of them, I already have a shop set up, so I'm just going to put it there, then, you're not really reflecting what you intend your brand to reflect. And that's not worth messing up, because, again, it creates mistrust. People don't trust you because they don't know what you really stand for, what you're really doing. And you don't want to put the state of your brand in jeopardy. So when you have offers that align, it helps to create that trust. It helps to seal in referrals. Referrals are a great part of building a business because it helps you to get repeat buyers or new buyers who are willing to give you a chance because someone else had a great opportunity or a great experience with you. So do your best to have offers that align so that you're not confusing your audience, and most importantly, so that you don't dilute your message. It's like saying that you are a brand that is integral, right? You have integrity, but then someone finds out that you like to sneak a little bit of money out of the pack before you send it to the bank. It would make them question if you're truly who you say you are, or if you're truly, well, they wouldn't have to question whether you had integrity because that's obviously not integral, right? So the same thing applies, when it comes to your offers and just building a brand in totality. You want to make sure that you're consistent. You want to make sure that your offers align and that everything matches up with how you want your brand to be perceived and experienced. Now, number five is that branding is an ongoing process. It's not just a one-time thing. And I've also done a video on this. Your brand is going to evolve as you grow. You're going to have new goals. Everything, while you build a strong foundation, that foundation will be maintained. And that means that as you revise and you audit and you go through things and you see what's working and what's not, you're going to refine those goals. You're going to refine your ideal audience based on how people respond. And you're going to create new opportunities for yourself. So it's very important that you have regular check ins with yourself. Again, you audit yourself and you refresh certain parts of your branding that are essential to help you stay connected and relevant with your ideal audience. Because brands that stay static will be stale and forgotten about, and you're no longer going to have a business if people don't remember who you are. So, something to remember is that building your brand isn't just a phase that you handle and then you forget about, and it's like, I've already done this. I don't need to come back to this. Branding is not that. It is a lifelong relationship that you are building and fine tuning with your audience. So, all in all, you need clarity. Clarity is at the center of it all. But you will not have any of that clarity if you don't make any moves in your business or take action. I've been this person in the past where I can plan and plan and plan and plan and not actually carry out anything. So then I don't have any data or feedback to then move on from, right? And you don't want to do things that way. You want to make sure that, you get that foundation set and you start to take some steps, get people to see you, get people to respond and give you feedback. That way you can then go in and do those check-ins and those audits and refresh things to make sure that they still align, or that maybe you need to go in a different direction, because at the end of the day, it's all an experiment. It's all what you do is not set in stone, right? You can always change it. One day, let's say you have a friendship, right? One day your friend likes to eat ice cream, but then the next day they realize, hey, maybe my body doesn't really agree with this ice cream. So I'm going to try um something frozen, like a frozen smoothie or something. Things change. Things are always changing. And so you don't want to neglect that. And that's where the audits and all of that come in. But again, at the end of the day, you need to take action in order to sustain that clarity as you are building your business. So that is all I have for you today in this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Please feel free to subscribe, like, and leave a comment down below. And please share it with your business bestie. All right. So I'll catch you guys in the next episode. Stay tuned for the next commercial. Bye. You're doing all the things: posting content, updating your website, running ads, tweaking your offers, but still wondering, why isn't this working? Truth is, you might be focusing on areas that look productive, but aren't actually moving the needle. The Brand Vitals assessment helps you stop guessing and start targeting. It's like a wellness checkup, but for your brand. You'll gain crystal clear insight into the 9 essential areas every brand needs to thrive. No fluff, no filler, just facts about where your brand stands and what needs your focus. Because clarity is the first step to real momentum. And when you know where to focus, you start to see progress, not just activity. Get out of busy work. Get into brand building that actually works. Take the Brand Vitals assessment now. Have you tapped into your Firmacy benefits? As a beneficiary, you unlock special offers, gifts, and always stay in the loop. Subscribe today to receive your exclusive dose. Visit firmacybenefits.com.